Hello malt mates, I've just reviewed Talisker Distillers Edition, bottle 2009, opened 2026 because I bought it in 2010 and left it 16 years before I opened the bottle. When I opened the bottle, the cork came off just fine. No hassle, no problem, no quibble. I stored it in a dark place. I stored it carefully. I monitored it carefully. It's kept absolutely fine, and I've just scored it in review number 1135, an 84 out of 100, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this whisky. I don't review so much on this channel these days anything from Talisker, because all Talisker is chill filtered and caramel added and corporatized. It's generic and corporatized. And you will find many, if you go in the forums and speak to the Talisker fans, they will all come back to you with the same advice and message based on their personal experience. And they'll tell you how good Talisker used to be, how the 10-year-old used to be dependent, and then it went downhill, became very variable, became quite thin at times, quite feeble, quite anemic, very disappointing. So here in review 1135 extras, I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit of my personal history, specifically with Talisker. And the reason I'm doing this is because we all have personal history with specific brands. And the weight of that history carries our journey forward. It's just the way it is. We have good times, we have bad times, we learn from it. Some brands we just inevitably, to save our money and save our palate, we just have to walk away from them because they're no longer delivering what they should deliver, could deliver, can deliver, because it's been a deliberate, willful, meaningful choice by the producer who owns the distillery to dumb their brand down. They want to do it, they mean to do it, they intend to do it, and it's all about cutting costs. Cutting costs because the primary purpose of many large whisky companies, because they are on the stock market, particularly the US stock market, but the British stock market as well, their primary purpose is not to make product. Their primary mission, their number one mission, is returns to the shareholder, and if the stock market value is not doing so well, then they have to pay dividends. It isn't what's called a demonic and virtuous circle. So that the investors, they don't care about the company. If the stock market value's gone down and the shares aren't growing in value, so what? They're getting the dividends. That'll do. That'll make up for the difference. And these dividends to the shareholders, usually the big hedge funds, like BlackRock, State Street and Vanguard. And I mean, seriously, look into it, malt mates. Even if you're not in the stock market, look into it. Because if you've got any sort of pension plans, someone else is doing it for you and probably not doing such a good job. And this is why we need the knowledge. We need to understand not just individual brands, but where's the owner at with them? This is why, if we're out of touch, we're still worshipping Macallan, overpaying for under-delivery every time, when the people who really know about whisky are laughing behind their hands and buying another bottle of Ardnamurchan or Isle of Arran, or perhaps something from Raasay, or perhaps something from, another good example, another solid example, Lindors. Lindors is really coming into its own now. It's the knowledge. This is why the online Scotch Whisky Awards are so important. They're there as a one-stop shop for anyone who really wants to transition from general knowledge to relevant knowledge. And we need that knowledge because we're paying our money for the product. I first tasted Talisker in the late 1970s. It was 1970. I know. That's a long, long time ago. I was there. Very different world. And my father had poured a glass of Talisker into a cut crystal thimble glass, specifically used for liqueurs. He filled it to the brim. He never added water, because you didn't do that. You just sipped it and then topped up the glass again. While he was sitting in front of the fireplace with the gramophone on. Seriously, it was a gramophone. Playing vinyl records of Bieber, Handel, Vivaldi, and other Renaissance and Rococo composers. There you go. How refined is that? You know, you don't forget these things. He gave me a taste. I found it disgusting, but I was just a young lad there, and he wanted a laugh to see my reaction. I much preferred the bottle of Kahlua coffee liqueur that was languishing at the back of the cocktail cabinet down in the front room. Very nice and Victorian cabinet, full of inlay and bits of ivory. Very classy. I've still got it. And there was there for guests who arrived and they didn't like whiskey and they didn't like good quality rum, so they'd get a wee sweeter liqueur, and nothing more exotic than Kahlua. Made in Mexico. How exotic. Looks like it's Middle Eastern, but it ain't. It's from Mexico. Special. This was the age when people were drinking Bloody Marys and drinking lager. Foster's lager was a thing. And people were drinking vodka and whatever. As Bloody Marys was the thing. And nobody was really wanting to drink whiskey anymore because it was an old man's drink. So it was basically single malt was something to be treasured. It was a sign of status, whether it be Macallan, because I remember him having Macallan, Rosebank, Talisker. That was his three go-tos. That's what he fed himself on. Very rarely occasional Bowmore. Sheriff Bowmore at the time. Beautiful stuff, in retrospect. But I was a fan of Talisker. I enjoyed the phenolics. I enjoyed the fact that it's a rounded phenolic, non-Islay peated whiskey, which has that crispness to it. It has that savoury, distinctive savoury note. And I remember buying my father a bottle of Talisker 10-year-old, and he opened it and he went very quiet. I said, well, you're going to give me a share? And I had a wee taste myself, because I was into whiskey at that point. We're talking about 15, 20 years later. And I thought, oh dear. What's happened to Talisker? I'll tell you exactly what happened to Talisker. Diageo happened to Talisker. That's cost cutting. The cost cutting never ended. Never will end. Death by 1 million cost cuts. That's the Diageo story. I don't see them ever reversing their business now. All it needs is a strong competitor to Guinness, and they're screwed. The Talisker was thin. It was the cask influence. It wasn't rich. It wasn't properly matured. I could tell immediately. My dad instinctively knew. I immediately went out and bought him a bottle of Caol Ila. 12-year-old. He was delighted. He moved on to the Caol Ila and never touched Talisker again. He never bought another bottle of Talisker. I bought another bottle of Talisker. I bought this. I bought a few like it. I thought I better stock up in these, because what if Talisker continues to go downhill? And intermittently it is. You'll get the occasional competent bottlings, but they're no more than competent. They don't knock your socks off. They don't blow your mind and say, oh wow, this is the best Talisker I've ever tasted. You do not get that now. It's simply not in the DNA of the owners to actually do it. And what's worse, and it's exactly the same with Lagavulin, is they refuse to sell Talisker to independent bottlers who would generally do a better job of delivering it. They'd take these thin casks, these anemic casks, generic, with proprietor cask wash, or whatever they're using, with stuff that, to me anyway, suspiciously comes across as aspartame, stevia and other sweeteners. So what do? If we want a good Talisker, we've got to go to the pass, we've got to go to auction. But a word of caution here, malt mates, it's just been brought to my attention by a Patreon subscriber that the auction houses in the UK are putting up their prices for the sale of whisky from 12.5% to 15%. That's a fairly significant rise. So it's becoming less cheap to buy whisky at auction, and there's a knock-on effect. Is that the real cheapies, the blends and the little bottles we can gamble on auction, people are not going to put these bottles into auction anymore if they're not going to get any meaningful money back on them, even if it was just £10. They're going to say, why bother? The costs are too great to the buyer. They're going to bid less. I'm going to get less. What's the point? We'll just put it into a summer punch. We'll put it in as a raffle prize while it's still legal to offer alcohol as a raffle prize down at the bowling club. The story of Talisker is a complex one. You've got plenty of choices at the moment. But you have a good long hard look at the choices you've got, and you'll see that the choices are actually very limited. The bottling strengths are all roughly the same. There's no such thing as a single cask Talisker. There's no such thing as a small batch Talisker. There's no such thing as an independent bottler being allowed to wave their magic wand over Talisker and present it as it really honestly should be, unchill filtered and natural colour. And at this point, malt mates, let me give you some sound seasoned advice. You've got to put your sentiment aside and just walk away from the brand. You've just got to leave it sitting in the shelves at travel retail where it belongs for the passive consumer who's going to wait till it's discounted because they're not buying anymore because alcohol's bad for you. The big companies, there's distilleries out there, they are feverishly chasing consumers who are disappearing like snow off a wall on a hot winter's day. They won't be coming back again, by the way. Once they leave alcohol, they'll never return. It's a lifestyle thing. People are invested in wellness because they're feeling increasingly ill. People are feeling increasingly sick because of the food supply and the stress of negative media and all the pressures that come from social media, TikTok, Insta Bling and all that toxic feed that we're increasingly getting, much of it AI generated now. I just want to reassure you that this channel is non-AI. There's nothing AI about it. There's no intentions to introduce AI pictograms as clickbait. No. There's no adverts during the middle of this video. I'm not going to sit here and sponsor mattresses, pillows, second-hand cars and all the rest of it. No. It's not this kind of... This is a really old-fashioned channel and proud of it. This is an old-fashioned Talisker and proud of it. I'm renewing in my acquaintance with a brand I used to know, and the only way I can do so is with a brand that was bottled 16 years ago. Listen carefully to what I'm telling you here. Money's too precious, time's too valuable. We're in whisky for quality, not quantity. Don't waste your money in bad whisky. Do more research. Spend more carefully. Spend more wisely. Keep it positive. Because it only takes 3 or 4 bad buys in a row and you'll be put off whisky for life. Bye-bye.